My name is Kate Flanley. I'm a program director, and I thought I would start since it is kind of like the witching hour where we all kind of probably want to fall asleep. I thought I was going to start with a story, okay? So picture this. We're in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. I'm a grad student working on my doctoral research, and part of my lab experience down there is to do some field work. So I'm super excited, right? I did field work for my master's. We are going to have to hike up this mountain to set traps for sandflies, and I'm all excited, right? So for context, I studied sandfly spit for potential vaccine targets against cutaneous leishmaniasis, right? And so these sandflies that I worked with carried a parasite called leishmania, and they would create these really horrible skin lesions at the bite site. You may have heard of this as Baghdad boil. Okay, so that might be something familiar to you. And so I was super excited to be going to a known transmission area, right? And so I'm like all covered up. I've got my hiking pants on, my hiking boots on. I've got a ungodly amount of DEET on, right? And so I'm ready. And we start our trek up this hill, it is a mountain. And I look at it and I thought, oh my gosh, I think I may have overdone this. Like I'm a pretty good hiker, but I'm from the East Coast. We don't really have mountains like this. And so anyway, we start hiking up, take it a little too fast right off the bat, and it was quite a humbling experience, right? As I need to ask to pull off to the side and, do some of these, like catch my breath. And meanwhile, the local folks that live on the mountain are hiking up and passing me in tank top shorts and Havaiana flip-flops. And, I know I just am giving off this cloud of DEET and pretty much protecting everybody around me as well. And so we finally get to the top of this mountain, and we meet this farming family who has agreed to let us set our traps. And the woman goes and shows us her calf. And I see a scar that's very large. It takes up her entire calf. And this is the first person that I met that actually had a scar from a skin lesion from these Leishmania parasites. Now, what I didn't mention is that the treatments for these can take a very long time, right? It's infusions. The medicines are heavy metal based, so they're really hard to tolerate. And it takes weeks or months for these to heal with treatment. And so imagine this, you're 12 years old, you've got this huge, open wound on your leg. You have to hike down with your parents every day to get treatment and hike back up. Right? Not only is that taxing, but it also takes your family away from their livelihood. And so I think in that moment, especially after I caught my breath, that how important the work was that we were doing. And it was this moment too where I realized my career trajectory had changed forever. And so it was a seminal moment where I realized I need to do international research in some way, shape, or form for the rest of my career. And so I'm thrilled to be here with you today as a program director from the Office of International Science and Engineering, and sharing with you the opportunities that NSF and my office have to offer to make international research possible. So let's get started. So there's a couple of things that I want you to know right from the get-go. The first thing is that NSF welcomes international collaboration, particularly when it strengthens intellectual merit and broader impacts. So this is something you've been hearing over and over and over again. This does not mean you have to just wait for a targeted opportunity. So many of our proposals contain international research collaboration, and so that's very exciting. In fact, if we look at awards, you'll see that most of the international research funding is coming from our core programs in our research directorates. They're not coming from specific targeted programs. So for instance, I cover India. So we just offered our first direct bilateral research collaboration about a year ago. But prior to that, if you did an award search, there were over 200 awards in the last 5 years that had collaboration with India. So it's the research community is finding that these collaborations are valuable. And so you're able to do that in any way, shape, or form right off the bat from your own individual proposals. There are targeted funding opportunities. I'll share the ones from my office and a few from around the directorates, but these are smaller in number. Again, one of the things that Jean really emphasized earlier this morning about international collaboration that I want you to also hear now is that NSF really only funds the US research side. We do not fund the international partner, and this in part goes back to NSF's mission to train the US workforce to advance US science. That being said, we do recognize that not all international partners have access to funding in their own national infrastructure. So we're putting increased efforts into partnerships to smooth collaborations. And while it's a priority, it's also a work in progress. So hopefully by the next time we all meet, I have more to share. So OISE is a cross-cutting office, and so you might be more familiar with our research directorates that are here in the gold ovals. And so we're not the only cross-cutting office. So OIA and our TIP directorate are also share that similar feature. And what we do is we have our own programs, but we also help the research directorates achieve their international research collaboration goals. We can do that by helping with funding, but we also do that through helping them with the policy aspect of working with international partners. So why does NSF even care about international research since we are a domestic agency? So I will give a little caveat. So this data is from 2019. New data was just released, but it was not in a nice map, and I didn't have time to crunch all the numbers. So please bear with me. There is data. We'll have it for you next year. But if you look at this map, you'll see that the global research and development expenditure across the world, over 70% of that is outside of the United States. Right, so in North America, we're at about 29% when you include the US, Canada, right, and Mexico. And so the US is about 27% of that. So why, from our vantage point, would we ignore over 70% of research and development happening around the globe? And so we don't want to do that. We want to engage. We want to know what's going on elsewhere. And we want to leverage resources for collaboration when it makes sense for the US research community. And it's not only funding that is diffuse worldwide, but if you look at publication data as well, you'll see a growing share of global science and engineering publications take place with international co-authorship. So we're very excited. It's an exciting time to actually be at NSF and looking for international collaboration. So to further set the scene, I'll just also share that I would like to emphasize that all of NSF's international activities support 3 key goals, each of which maps to several elements of the National Science Board Vision 2030. So the National Science Board is NSF's governing body. So we would like to advance research by leveraging partnerships. So for the international space, this means catalyzing partnerships that allow teams to advance research in a way that they couldn't do otherwise or on their own. We want to build a diverse, globally engaged STEM workforce, and we want to strengthen global leadership. Let me explain what this means. This does not mean that the US is always in the lead and that everybody else has to follow. It means that we promote and act according to our values that include fairness, transparency, reciprocity, and respect for intellectual property. All of NSF's international engagements are driven by core values. So we strive to promote collaboration that enhances research and education with direct benefit to the US. We strive to ensure intellectual partnerships with reciprocal benefit. We strive to maintain and grow networks that enable US access to various types of international resources, whether that is expertise, facilities, or more. We strive to build a globally engaged workforce by providing opportunities for U.S. students, postdocs, and early career researchers to engage in international research. And finally, we strive to lead with values about how to do research. So with our commitment to openness, data sharing, transparency, and equity. Okay, so here's the good stuff. Let's dive into the opportunities that you'll see that are offered across NSF. And of course, because I'm from the Office of International Science and Engineering, that's where we're gonna start. So in my office, we offer 3 programs. The very first program is IRIS, or International Research Experiences for Students, which is NSF 24-506. And the IRIS program supports international research and research-related activities for U.S. science and engineering students. The IRIS program contributes to the development of a diverse, globally engaged workforce with world-class skills. And IRIS focuses on active research participation by undergraduate and or graduate students in high-quality research education and professional development experiences in NSF-funded research areas. So you'll see that the next deadline is October 28th, and then annually it will be the 4th Monday in October. You can reach the IRIS team using the email on the screen. Next, we have AccelNet, or Accelerating Research Through International Network-to-Network Collaborations, and this is 23-619. So AccelNet funds networking activities, right? So it's networking activities, not specific research proposals, but networking activities to coordinate efforts of multiple independent research networks at the international level in cooperative team science. We welcome proposals in any area funded by NSF, particularly those addressing grand research challenges that have been identified by NSF or the research community. There are 2 tracks. The design track is for networks of networks that are in the early stages of formation, whereas the implementation track is for mature networks of networks who are ready to coordinate. Proposals must include detailed plans for collaborative and network-wide synergistic coordination activities that will demonstrate an acceleration of scientific advancement. The next deadline is September 16th, and then after that, annually, the 3rd Monday in September. And again, you can reach out to the program directors from AccelNet at the email provided on the screen. Our 3rd program is the Global Centers. This is NSF 24-556. And last year, OISE introduced the Global Centers program. So this is something new and exciting. Yay! Sugar's not kicking in yet from that coffee break, huh? Okay, got it. All right, so the hallmarks of the Global Centers program include large-scale collaborations with multiple funding partners, youth-inspired research, addressing global challenges through multidisciplinary approaches, an inclusion of educational and social sciences necessary to achieve youth-inspired outcomes. The focus on a societal challenge rather than a specific discipline means that this funding opportunity can be open to all PIs across all disciplines supported by NSF. The youth-inspired emphasis is new to our office, and so we've heard from PIs that they love it, and we saw them respond by bringing in diverse stakeholders and partners to the table. The first cycle of Global Centers last year highlighted climate change and clean energy in partnership with the UK, Canada, and Australia. This newer approach in OISE with a increased focus on multilateral collaborations amplifies NSF's ability to leverage strategic alliances and address global challenges. So the 2024 Global Centers competition is open right now, and if you see, the deadline is a week from today, so probably not going to happen. But what you can do, if this year's topic, right, is on the bioeconomy, you've been hearing also over and over the last 2 days, become a reviewer, volunteer to be a reviewer. So the Global Centers, if you have expertise in the bioeconomy, reach out, email them, send them your CV, and they'll be, happy to have that opportunity to engage with you. So with the bioeconomy, our partners this year are Canada, Finland, Japan, South Korea, and the UK, along with the US National Endowment for the Humanities. And the topic for 2025 is, I'm not supposed to tell you, I'm just kidding, I don't actually know, but keep a look for our office. There will be an announcement on the 2025 competition, probably by the end of the year. So there you go, a little nugget to take with you. Okay, so now let's look further out at what NSF can offer, across the foundation. And so when we're looking at this portfolio, I'll highlight a couple of programs as examples, but we have way many more than I have time to go over today. So NSF catalyzes and facilitates a wide range of partnerships as shown here. So our base are the PI to PI partnerships, and we're going to include students and postdocs in this. Then we also, we grow in scale. So groups of PIs to groups of PIs, and then on a larger scale, center to center. So we're going to start with the base. OISE estimates that about 75 to 80% of awards with collaborative international activity fall into this category. Okay, so let's start with our student opportunities and postdoc opportunities. So I've already mentioned the OISE offering of IRIS, and then you'll also see, you may be familiar with the NSF-wide research experiences for undergraduates, and the REU program welcomes proposals that are international as well. If we look at postdoc opportunities, I'll highlight two programs that are not limited to postdocs, but are interested in supporting postdocs. So right now we have a Dear Colleague letter that offers research collaboration in Europe. This is a supplement opportunity, so it's currently open to any PI with an active NSF award, and that's for the researcher or the postdoc or graduate students to spend time working in a European Research Council funded lab. Another opportunity that we have that is similar is an international collaboration supplement in quantum science. Again, this offers the supplements to PIs with active awards. And so PIs, postdocs, and grad students funded under those current awards can conduct research related to quantum information science and engineering. So now let's talk about the PIs. So we have many options for PI to PI, whether that's via specific programs, which we'll talk about a couple of those, or our direct bilateral arrangements. So here we have the ecology and evolution of infectious diseases that is offered by our biological sciences directorate. And this involves other US agencies like the National Institutes of Health and the US Department of Agriculture, as well as international research funding agencies from the UK, Israel, and China. Hot tip here, the guy that runs the program, Sam Shiner, is presenting tomorrow, so you can always talk to him if this is kind of in your wheelhouse. Another one is the Biodiversity on a Changing Planet. This is offered by our Biological Sciences Directorate and our Geosciences Directorate, and the international partners include Brazil, China, and South Africa. The Belmont Forum is another opportunity. This is led by our Geosciences Directorate and a bunch of others. So this is for interest for anybody working kind of in sustainability and environmental science. The forum itself is a relatively informal organization of environmental research funding agencies and offers research opportunities. And even our STEM Education Directorate offers, or invites different international collaborations, maybe not with a specific country, but they invite that for some of their programs as well, like the workplace equity for persons with disabilities in STEM education. You may have come across these direct bilateral arrangements that we also offer across the foundation. You may have heard them referred to as research agency opportunities or the lead agency opportunities. So all of these terms mean the same thing. It means that NSF and an international funding partner have agreed to work together and offer kind of a joint funding opportunity to our research communities. And we engage in a wide variety of these. Actually, I'm going to go back for just 1 second. All of our direct international partnerships leverage NSF funds, meaning that we can fund more research, right? If we fund the US side and our international funding agency funds their side, right, we're getting more bang for our buck. What this also means is that the US and the foreign researchers collaborate to prepare and submit a single proposal that undergoes a single review process at the coordinating or lead agency. Many times NSF is the coordinating agency for the merit review process, but this is not always the case. So there are instances like with the UK and Switzerland where the other country actually leads the merit review process. Again, as a reminder, NSF typically only funds the US side of the partnership. And so what we found, without joint funding opportunities, PIs in the US and PIs in other countries who want to collaborate on a project can face a barrier in simultaneously lining up independent funding on both sides. So these direct bilateral arrangements help reduce such a barrier. Many times we announce these opportunities through Dear Colleague letters. These Dear Colleague letters will let you know kind of the topic area of interest. So maybe there's a research partnership with, let's say, India on biotechnology, right? And so it will tell you what topics and what areas of biotechnology are of interest, and it will also let you know which NSF units are participating. So what that means is that you need to look and carefully see which NSF units are participating, and you would write your proposal for that actual program and submit to that program. So these opportunities are not separate programs that you will find in research.gov to submit to, nor do they have their own separate pot of funds, but rather you compete with other proposals for that NSF program's available funding. All right. So here is a map that shows where we have our direct bilateral partnerships. These partnerships were established because we identified both a compelling research opportunity and an effective and ready partner. We do recognize that this map is Eurocentric, but we do not work with just European partners. And so OISE is working very hard to build and establish a diversity of partnerships around the globe. We have made great progress over the last few years in expanding from bilateral partnerships to multilateral partnerships. This is a quickly moving space for NSF, and it's pretty neat, I have to say. We do partner in collaborations where other nations take the lead to further leverage the power of partnerships, respond to global challenges, and engage communities. So one example of this is a recently released joint call led by Nordforsk on sustainable development in the Arctic. Unfortunately, that one closed today for pre-proposals, but you can always keep a lookout for future opportunities. But this one in particular highlights 3 keywords: security, natural resources, and societal changes. It requires research teams to include members from the US, Canada, and the Nordics. And it also encourages the engagement of indigenous perspectives where appropriate. Another example is a Canadian-led consortium which focuses on climate mitigation and adaptation. Projects must respond to the needs of those most impacted by the effects of climate change, such as communities in low and middle-income countries, or indigenous territories, or groups that are vulnerable due to their geographic, social, and/or economic circumstances. All projects are required to partner with participating communities in the co-creation, implementation, and ownership of the research and outcomes, and to develop approaches related to policy implementation and knowledge mobilization. And so what's exciting is that consortium just announced their first round of awards just the other day. And so you can go on to NSF and see the announcement and see what projects came out of that. Okay, so as I said, the base is really where most of our international collaboration happens, but it is not the only place. So there's other opportunities that are larger in scale. So let's take a look at some of those. So next up in scale are the groups of PIs to groups of PIs, such as ExcelNet, which we already shared. And then another example is a cross-directorate research coordination network program. And its goal is to advance a field or create new directions in research or education by supporting groups of investigators to communicate and coordinate their research, training, and educational activities across disciplinary, organizational, geographic, and international boundaries. So the RCN program provides opportunities to foster new collaborations, including international partnerships where appropriate, and address interdisciplinary topics. So this solicitation does not partner with specific funding agencies, but rather encourages international collaboration on the research level. So that is where you do need to be careful when you're looking at different solicitations, if it is with a specific country, or if it's just kind of generally international collaboration is encouraged. Another example is the Collaborative Research in Computational Neuroscience, another cross-directorate program. And this one supports research projects and the sharing of data and other resources for the study of computational neuroscience. International partners include Germany, France, Israel, Japan, and Spain. If we look at the center-to-center level, one example of international collaboration is amongst engineering research centers. And our strongest connections there are with Ireland, Northern Ireland, as well as Brazil. In this case, the international collaboration is less central to the overall project, but rather it is funded through a supplement and represents one of several or many activities or engagements for that center. And then another example is very similar, is the Industry University Cooperative Research Centers, or the IUCRCs, which again are cross-directorate. And so with prior approval from the NSF and the center's Industry Advisory Board, a center may submit a supplemental funding request to foster collaborative work with an international partner. Okay. So we're near the end here. So I'd like to share, please go to the Office of International Science and Engineering webpage for more information. And I'd like to flag two specific areas that I think have a lot of great information. One, under additional resources, you're going to find the OISE regional and country contacts list. So this is where you'll see program directors like myself and what countries they cover. So if you have specific questions about that country, you can reach out to any of us. Also under additional resources, you'll see the active international collaboration opportunities listed. And so please take a look at those there. I would also invite you to sign up to receive OISE emails, and then you'll get the latest and greatest, like the 2025 topic for the global centers, if you sign up for emails. Okay, so the final thing, let's leave you with some hot tips so that way you can fully engage in some international collaboration through NSF. So the first, right, it's a broken record, volunteer to be a reviewer. What I will add is when is a good time to volunteer, right? So you don't want your email to get lost in the shuffle. So about a month prior to when the solicitation closes, right, when there's a deadline, reach out to that program officer and send a link to your research webpage, or attach an updated CV, send them some information. So if you're interested, if you have that expertise in bioeconomy, reach out to the Global Centers team. If you think you'd like to review so that you can learn more about ExcelNet, I would encourage you to reach out to the program directors in August. If you're like, ooh, IRIS, that one sounds really good, I'd like to be a part of that in the review team, reach out in September. Okay, so about a month before would be great. Next, reread the solicitation. So like I said, usually we announce our international opportunities with DCLs. The DCL is going to have specific instructions on like where to submit your foreign collaborators bio sketch or the foreign budget, right? Something like that. But then you have to submit your actual proposal to a participating NSF program. So let's say you're submitting to biosensing in the engineering directorate. So then you have to go to biosensing and make sure that you're following all the requirements for that program. And you also have to look at the PAPG. So make sure you're looking at all, kind of cross-referencing these different places so that you understand what the requirements are, so that your proposal passes all that, the first like compliance phase of submission. I would also encourage you to attend webinars and or office hours. So webinars are usually posted that have happened in the past, and come to office hours. So office hours are great if you kind of have general questions that maybe, probably a few of you are all thinking. So helpful questions would be those that clarify any confusion you have with something you heard in a webinar or maybe another office hour session, in the solicitation, the DCL or the PAP guide. Very specific questions, I would probably encourage you to email the Cognizant Program Officer and see if it can get resolved there. Or if you're the only one in an office hour, enjoy, ask as many specific questions as you want. And a few things about proposal submissions. On the cover sheet, please do check the international box for any proposal you are submitting that describes international activity and lists the relevant countries. And international activities defined as research, training, and or education carried out in cooperation with international counterparts, either overseas or in the US using virtual technologies. Proposers also should enter the country or countries with which project participants will engage and or travel to attend international conferences. If the specific location is unknown at the time of submission, there is an option that you can click on or select worldwide. So that's all in the PAPG. Make sure any international activity and travel is included in the budget and also justified according to the PAP guide, and discuss in your data management plan how your international collaboration will impact data management. And so with that, I'd like to thank you all for your kind attention, and I hope to wish you all the best of luck as you submit proposals, and I'm happy to take any questions.
And in the room, if you could please use the microphone, that'd be great.
Hi. Is this on? Yeah, some of these might be newer, but is there a way to flag in, say, the advanced search on existing awards what has been funded through these programs?
Well, you can. So like for the IRIS program, you can just type in IRES,
okay,
and it will show you all of the proposals that have been awarded. Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh my gosh, it was just that good.
Well, there's a question online, and it says, just to clarify, will NSF not fund travel for foreign collaborators?
That is correct. So, right, we will fund you to go over there. If there would be a very compelling reason. So that was also something that Jean talked about this morning. And Jeremy, you can also correct me if I'm wrong, since you know the policy far better than I do. But if there's a compelling reason for that, I don't know that international travel for your foreign counterpart to bring them here would count under that, but.
No, that would certainly be something that would be allowable.
That would be allowable.
Yeah, I mean, and there may be something in a program solicitation that might restrict that or may provide further guidance on how to include that.
That sounds good. Great, thank you. So, so I'll just add to that. So for, I know for the IRIS program, we will only fund going to the other country. We will not fund in that program solicitation. It does say that we will not fund people coming back over to the US. So just make sure you check this solicitation. Yes.
Yeah. Hi. Question: when responding to a Dear Colleague letter and going through kind of a traditional program, is it better to rely on supplemental funding opportunities later on for international exchange, or should that be part of our budget to the other programs?
I mean, I think you can go both ways for that. I would not discourage you from including international collaboration in your original proposal. I will say you have to make the case of why this adds to your research, how it benefits the U.S. with this collaboration. But I would not say to not go that way. We have so many. I mean, like I said, we had over 200 proposals with Indian collaborators, right? And there was nothing formal being offered by NSF at that time. So they do get funded. The international collaboration proposals do get funded by the core programs.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, good. They're coming this way, not running out the door. Okay. It's a good sign.
I don't want to throw this away. Okay. Thank you for the talk. And my question is, does this support international students that are currently in the US but would like to say, for instance, the RISE or something that would like to travel to other places, or it's just for US students?
So you'll have to check the solicitation depending on the program. So as has been explained in other sessions too, is that, there are some eligibility requirements, that it has to be a U.S. student or permanent resident, but really you have to check. Otherwise, it's really open. I mean, when I look at different progress reports, I see a variety of folks that are international, come from other countries, but are being trained in the U.S.
Hi, so I'm a research administrator, and I've had a PI come to me who wants to work with a scholar in another country, but it's one of the countries that we consider possibly malign, I guess, or not a government that we want to work with. Are there any ways to structure that where any kind of collaboration with individual PIs is possible, or do we just need to look elsewhere to private foundations or something?
That is a tough one. And I wouldn't want to discourage. I think I would contact your program director. I think it is a case by case basis. I do think there's more scrutiny and more hoops to jump through. So yeah, I would reach out to your program director. Sorry, it's not a clear answer on that one.
I just have a question, maybe some direction. I teach computing in a community college that is right across the border between Mexico and the United States. And we have a lot of talent of students just coming from Mexico, but sometimes we need to propagate them to the right direction. I was just wondering, and I'm going to read the solicitations of different, if we are applicable to some of them, but I was wondering if you have a direction of if maybe there's an opportunity in the program that you oversee for this particular criteria.
We do not have a direct bilateral partnership with Mexico right now. I'm not really sure. So I'd be happy to talk with you further about that if you send an email, and we can
Thank you very much.
follow up on that. Okay, well, I think we're done. Thank you very much for your attention.